So Joe Biden has given Ukraine the go-ahead to start firing US rockets deep into Russia. Now, until now, it's only allowed the weapons to be used in occupied Ukrainian territory. Moscow previously warning such a change would significantly escalate the conflict. It comes as Donald Trump Jr. has accused the president of trying to start World War III before his father even takes office. In a moment, we'll get a word from the former Deputy Minister of Justice of Ukraine in a second. First, Sir Bill Browder is with us, head of the Global Magnitsky Justice Campaign. Bill, good afternoon to you. Always good to get your expert and qualified take on this. Your assessment, firstly, of Mr. Trump Jr.'s assessment that this is the start of World War III.
Well, no, it's not the start of World War III. That's a Putin talking point. Putin has been desperately trying to continue the unfair fight that he has. He's been lobbying in hundreds of missiles from Russia into Ukraine, and Ukraine has missiles that they could fire back, but they've been prevented from firing those missiles back by Joe Biden and his administration up until yesterday. Putin has made all sorts of threats about World War III. He said, you know, anybody who joins NATO along his borders, that will be a declaration of war, and then Sweden and Finland join NATO. He said if we provided tanks, that would be a problem. We provided tanks, no problem. He said the same thing about F-16s, no problem. Putin is a blowhard. He's a bully, and the only way to stand up to a bully is to show strength. And this was a action of extreme strength, and I think it's very helpful for the Ukrainians to be able to fight back.
What is meant by Russian territory here? Are we talking about disputed Russian territory, or are we talking about Moscow?
Well, in this particular case, in this very narrow instance, the U.S. has said that the Ukrainians can fire into territory around the Kursk region. And it's very specific and very strategic that the Ukrainians have gone into Russia and taken over a piece of Russia, the Kursk region, at the same time as the Russians have gone into Ukraine and taken 3 of their provinces and about 20% of their territory. So one country has some of Ukraine has some of Russia's, and Russia has some of Ukraine's. And from the U.S. perspective, I think what Biden is thinking is that there's going to be a moment for a negotiation, and particularly that moment is coming soon because that's what Trump has indicated. And so what Biden is trying to do is to say, okay, let's give the Ukrainians as strong a position as we can give them so that they've got something to negotiate with, and that is the Kursk territory.
So you essentially think that this is Mr. Biden is helping Mr. Trump here. It's an assistance. It bolsters his case for peace.
Well, it all depends on what Trump's true intentions are. If he really wants peace, this is very helpful. If Trump wants to do Putin a favor, this is unhelpful. We won't know what the truth of that is until we see Trump in office.
What do you sense of this relationship that, I don't know whether it's a full-on matey relationship between Putin and Trump? One moment we hear that things are quite positive between them. The next we hear the Kremlin denying they've even spoken since Mr. Trump's election victory. What is your assessment on how Donald Trump back in the hot seat will change this war and will change potentially Mr. Putin?
Well, I mean, we only know what Donald Trump has said on the campaign trail and what his proxies have said. And everything indicates that they're very unwilling to provide further military aid for Ukraine. That's the basic principle. If you remember, in January of this year, there was a $50 billion U.S. aid package scheduled to be voted on, and Donald Trump went to Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, and said, don't vote on that. Don't put it up for vote. And for a number of months, that money wasn't voted on. The Ukrainians were running out of ammunition, and it was only when David Cameron went and pleaded with Trump to let it go that the money was finally released. And so my fear is, and I could be proven wrong, and I hope I'm proven wrong, that when Trump comes into office, the supply of military aid to Ukraine will dry up. And if it dries up, then eventually Ukraine will lose the war. And if Ukraine loses the war, then there will be 25 million Ukrainian refugees fanning out across Europe and coming here. Not to mention the fact that Putin will probably then have a go at Estonia, Lithuania, or Latvia, who are NATO members. And then the question is, does Trump honor the NATO treaty? And if he doesn't, we're in for a real nasty future.
So that could really be the start of World War III.
That's a more likely start of World War III than giving the Ukrainians what they need to fight back, in my opinion.
OK, Bill, thank you for your time as ever. Sir Bill Browder, head of the Global Magnitsky Justice Campaign, a familiar voice on these areas.